What's up, everybody? Welcome in another edition Refuse to Lose podcast, and this one is certainly a happy one. Another live show, second one this week. Well, I guess it's not technically this week, but second one in just a few days here. I am still live in Houston, unfortunately. Travel issues have kept me here, so that's why I'm still in the dark hotel room with the bed backdrop. But hey, you know what? I don't even mind staying in Houston because it was such a good weekend for the Mariners. I just want to be, I'm okay with being here a little bit more. We got a lot to go in this episode. As always, you can get in some questions on, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on X, you can get in some questions. And if I answer them here, great. And if I don't, I'll answer them in a subsequent podcast as also, but I always like seeing what everyone has to say. It was a phenomenal weekend. This will be a big episode. We've got Gabe Speier you're going to hear from. You're also going to hear from Doug Glanville, former Major League outfielder. He was here in Houston this weekend on the call for Sunday Night Baseball for ESPN Radio. I had a chance to talk with him, so you're going to hear from both of them about what the week meant. We'll talk about Brian Wu, and just I'm going to share my emotions of what it was like actually being here in the ballpark. So, as always, remember, you can listen to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and as we move forward through the playoffs, hopefully, you can watch us on YouTube as well. We'll start kind of building up this channel now that we've been more established. So multiple different ways to catch up on the podcast, and I appreciate all the kind words that we've gotten here. A lot of people seem to be enjoying what we're doing, enjoying the guests, and it's always fun to talk about a winner, and right now the Mariners are that, having won 14 of 15. All of my written work, Taryn Kowach, all of his written work, you can find us at Mariners on Roundtable Sports, Seattle Mariners Roundtable. So just check us out there. And we put out 5, 8, 10 pieces of content a day, and that is the best way you can support us, is listening to this podcast and reading all of our written work. So again, that's Mariners Roundtable Sports. You can follow me on social media at Refuse to Lose Pod. I appreciate everybody who has done that. A lot of you seem to enjoy the coverage live from Houston, and I'm happy and honored to be able to provide it to you. So without further ado, let go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The Mariners are now 87 and 69, and they have an off day tonight before starting a new series with the Colorado Rockies. As a result, with 6 games to play, they are 3 games up in the division, effectively 4, given the fact that they have the season tiebreaker over the Astros. That's the logistics of it. This weekend, I think for me, this weekend, I think for the players, and this weekend, I imagine for you, was cathartic. And that is the best word that I can think of to describe what we saw on the field at Daikin Park. This series did not officially win the Mariners the division. It didn't officially get them a first-round bye. It didn't win them the World Series, and I know all of that. But that said, it felt like an exercising of demons. And it's an exercising of demons that I needed, that you needed, and that I think a lot of the long-tenured players on this roster needed. It wasn't that long ago when the Astros went 18-1 against the Mariners in the season. It wasn't that long ago when the Astros swept the Mariners out of the American League playoffs. It wasn't that long ago that we saw the Astros hoist the World Series trophy for a second time. And it wasn't that long ago that the Mariners saw the Astros celebrate a division title right in front of them in this ballpark. It was just last year. So you add up all of those moments, you add up all of those years, you stack them on top of each other, and it felt like the Mariners were never going to get to this point, and it felt like they were certainly never going to get past the Astros. And I know the Astros have had a slew of injuries, and I know that this isn't the same Astros team as a result of that. And would it have meant more if Yordan Alvarez had been here? Would it have meant more if Luis Garcia and Christian Javier were? Maybe, but they weren't. And it still felt damn good to exercise those demons because this franchise, this fan base, they needed it. Okay. I've talked a lot this season about it feeling like Lucy was always going to pull the football from Charlie Brown. It felt like for a long time that the Mariners were going to find a way to not get something done rather than get something done. And this weekend, it doesn't change 50 years of history. It doesn't negate bad memories. It doesn't put everything in the rearview mirror, but it goes a damn hell of a long way towards towards us healing from all of that. And that is what it felt like in the ballpark. I am thrilled and grateful that I was here to see it, because it felt like a cleansing of my fan pellet that has needed cleansing for a decade, for 2 decades. Again, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I know that this series ultimately didn't win the Mariners officially anything. But what it did do was restore the idea of optimism and hope to a fan base that has been wanting it and has been devoid of it for a long time. And that's just the reality. We have all waited constantly for the other shoe to drop with this franchise. And this weekend, the other shoe didn't drop. Some of the best, I don't know if it's advice or maybe it's the best, one of the best proverbs I ever heard was there's 3 kinds of people in this world. There's people that get hit and do nothing. There's people that get hit and punch back. And there's people that hit first. And finally this weekend, the Mariners were the team that hit first. And they didn't just do it once. They did it consistently. They did it all 3 games. To get up 4-0 or to get up 1-0 in the first on Friday was huge to set the tone. To get up 6-0 on Saturday was huge. To get up 7-0 on Sunday was huge. I mean, I know the games got squirrely late, and we'll get to that. But by and large, the Mariners controlled this series from start to finish. And when is the last time that we can really sit here and say that in a big moment, the Mariners controlled play and they did it consistently? It hasn't happened very often. And it certainly hasn't happened often in the last decade and a half. But today, or this weekend, the Mariners hit first and they kept the pressure on. And one of the things I loved about this series was not just that they won, was not just that they controlled it, was not just that it felt like the exercising of demons. It was that this was basically a full roster contribution. I understand some of the lower leverage bullpen guys didn't play. I understand Harry Ford and Cole Young didn't get in this series. But for the most part, this was a full roster contribution. This was your big players. We've always said big players show up in big games, and there's always been a question about, will the Mariners' big players show up in big games? And this weekend, they did it. There was Julio Rodriguez with the home run to start it all off on Friday. There was Cal Raleigh with multiple home runs in this series, now getting to 58 for his season, the best all-time in a single season in the history of the franchise. There was Victor Robles, obviously the catch, but there was a home run from him on Friday. Josh Naylor, Jorge Polanco had a double. J.P. Crawford with the grand slam. A great defensive play from Gino on Friday night. And he hit a home run. And he had another hit on Monday or on Sunday. And he had a double on Saturday, I believe, also. The starting rotation giving up 1 run in 17 innings. Brian Wu to George Kirby to Logan Gilbert. Edward Bizardo being Superman out of the bullpen on Friday night. Andres Munoz getting it done. Gabe Speier, who we'll talk to, with one of the biggest strikeouts that I can remember. Victor Robles was with one of the best catches that I can remember. This was a full-fledged contribution from this roster. And you know what? I think it was kind of poetic in that it all came together, because for us as fans to knock down the door, and then for every player that contributed to knock down the door, and every player essentially that's been here for a long time to knock down the door, I think that matters. And it was an unbelievable weekend, and I am incredibly grateful that I am here, because again, it felt special in the building. It felt so anti everything that we have come to expect from the Mariners. And I said this, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, like, I wanted this for all of us. Okay, I wanted this for all of us. Selfishly, of course, I want this for me. I want this success for me. But I want it for you. I want it for the people who you have griped to about the Mariners, for the people who have seen your bad mood come as the result of the Mariners' poor play. I want it for Mariners fans who are no longer here that you're watching in their memory. I want it for everybody because we all deserve this. And I don't know if they're going to win the World Series, but they deserve a chance to, and we deserve a chance to watch them go for the World Series. And the more I've gotten to be around the team and the more I've gotten to have relationships with players, and I don't mean to, like, I don't know these guys that well, right? I've been at maybe 20 games this year in spring training. I don't want to make it seem more than it is. But as I've gotten to know guys, or I've gotten to interact with guys, or I've gotten to see guys and how they go about their business, I want it for them too. Right? I want this opportunity for Cal. I want this opportunity for Julio because these guys deserve it also. And Gilbert and Kirby and Munoz and Crawford, they've been here a while now. And they have been kicked to the curb by the Astros every step of the way for the most part. They've been left out of the club as the Astros have gone in the VIP entrance. So I want it for all of us, and this weekend felt like a coronation of our fandom, of our perseverance, of their perseverance, and it was an honor to be here. And here's what Dan Wilson said after the game on Sunday.
No doubt. I mean, for sure, and we've got work to do yet. We've got a lot of work to do, and it starts again on Tuesday. But I think we've been here. Last year we were here, and we saw a celebration on the field on their part. And that sticks with you. It's just our guys came today, this series, and they did what they had to do, and it was really good.
Every player, every coach that I talked to, right? I was in the media scrum on Sunday with Dan Wilson, with J.P. Crawford, and with Logan Gilbert. Every single one of them did a really good job at having tunnel vision. They all talked about what's coming. They all talked about the Rockies series. They all talked about getting back into it on Tuesday. They all talked about not being complacent, but you could tell that it meant something to them, like it meant something to us, to not only beat the Astros, to not only meet the moment, but to do it in this ballpark that has been a house of horrors for them for a long time. J.P. Crawford said he's got a lot of bad memories here. Logan Gilbert said he's happy the schedule lined up the way that it did so that these two teams could go at it kind of one-on-one and see who the best team was. And he was happy that they got an opportunity to play this team at this time of the year. And Dan Wilson said it there. We saw this team celebrate last year, and that sticks with you. And this weekend, the Mariners were the better team on paper. And they lived up to expectations. And that's not something we've said about the Mariners very often historically. And I hope that this is a turning point for the franchise to not only know, right, like if they can win the division, that's a turning point. If they do, I hope this series is a turning point that they know they can go in with expectations and actually fulfill them. And the Mariners teams of past that haven't done that, they don't have to carry their sins anymore. I hope as much as it was an exercising of demons for us, it was an exercising of demons for them, and again, serves as that turning point because it was a special weekend, and I hope it has special kind of long-term ramifications as well. It was awesome to be here. I want to go back to Saturday night, and I want to highlight two things. One, I talk about it kind of being beautifully poetic that everybody was involved. I want to go a little deeper on that for a second. And I wrote this at Roundtable Sports, and I hope I did it justice in writing, but if I didn't, I hope I do it justice on the audio side right now. Saturday night felt, again, kind of beautifully poetic and beautifully ironic. And what I mean is this. The Mariners were up 6-0. The Mariners gave up a grand slam to Jeremy Pena in the 7th inning to make it 6-4. And I feel like every doubt, every thought, every negative outcome you played in your mind came rushing in those moments, right? You all felt it. I know you did. Whether you want to admit it or not, I know that you did. You were worried on Saturday night that the Mariners were going to blow the game. I was worried on Saturday night that the Mariners were going to blow the game. And it felt like we had seen that before, where the Mariners are in such a great position, and then boom, all of a sudden the football gets pulled away from Charlie Brown. It felt like that was coming again. I know it because I was there. I saw it. I felt the ballpark energy, and I could feel everybody on social media that I was interacting with and watching. They were feeling it too. As it's 6-4. And then in the 8th inning, the Astros bring the go-ahead run to the plate in Christian Walker. And then in the 9th inning, the Astros bring the go-ahead run to the plate in Carlos Correa. Everybody's waiting for how will they Mariners it? And they didn't. Gabe Speier strikes out Walker in the 8th. And Victor Robles makes one of the best plays in franchise history. I've seen that on social media, and I don't think it's wrong. One of the best plays in franchise history to end the game. The Mariners, it felt like the baseball gods had to challenge us, had to challenge them one more time. And they had to give us one more huge battle to see if the team and the fan base could overcome it. And they did. And I think that is also why it was so cathartic for me, because I felt that. I felt like what was happening on Saturday night, what was transpiring was one final test. And the Mariners passed it. And could I believe it? Yes, of course I could believe it, because baseball does interesting things. But could I believe that the Mariners overcame it, that the Mariners handled the final test? Yeah, I can believe it, but I can tell you this. It was easier for me to stay calm being in the press box, right? No cheering in the press box. Have to be quiet in the press box. Had I been on my couch, I would have been freaking out. Had I been in this spot, in this hotel room for another night watching, I would have been freaking out. And I would not have believed it had I been in that position. Because I was in the press box and I had to be professional, it was much easier to be calm and reserved. But had I been somewhere else, it would have been far different. It felt like a final test. It felt like a final boss that you had to beat in order to go to the next level of a video game. And the baseball gods have already unfairly tested us for almost 50 years. Unfairly tested us and punished us for almost 50 years. And to get it done in the way they got it done was inspiring. And I want to give just massive credit to Gabe Speier, because while I can't sit here and say it was the singular biggest moment of the entire weekend, I'm having a hard time figuring out another singular moment that was bigger than what Gabe Speier did on Saturday night. Let's go to it. It's 6-4, right, in the bottom of the 8th inning. Now, Jeremy Pena has hit the grand slam in the 7th. In the 8th, Edward Bizardo starts. 2 guys get on base. There's 2 outs. Gabe Speier comes in to face Jesus Sanchez. Sanchez gets pinch hit for. They bring in Christian Walker. Guy with a real resume. Guy who's an all-star. I know he's struggling this year, but a guy certainly with power. He had a walk-off home run against the Mariners into the Crawford boxes earlier this season. Back in May, I believe. So Gabe Speier faces Christian Walker, who is the go-ahead run. 3-run homer makes it 7-6. And Gabe Speier strikes him out on 3 consecutive pitches. 3 consecutive fastballs up in the zone, challenge pitches, 97 miles an hour. And I can tell you this, that if Gabe Speier doesn't do that, and then if Andres Munoz and Victor Robles don't kind of handle the same situation in the ninth, we are having a very different conversation right now. Because if the baseball gods tested the Mariners and the Mariners failed and the Mariners lose Saturday, does anybody think that they're going to get off the mat and win on Sunday? They might. I've talked a lot about their resilience, but I can tell you that everybody who's watching right now would be thinking the same thing, that if they blow a 6-0 lead on Saturday, they're going to lose on Sunday also. And Gabe Speier didn't let that happen, and Victor Robles didn't let that happen. It was the Speier at bat was one of the biggest moments of the weekend, and it was unbelievable to see in person because, again, you could feel the flood of negative energy from Mariners Nation. You could feel the worry. I could feel it through my computer screen. I could witness it in the ballpark. And Gabe Speier delivered an absolute dominant 3 pitches. And then Victor Robles makes the great play on Saturday night in the 9th inning to go and win it. I had an opportunity to catch up with Gabe Speier over the weekend, and I spoke to him on Sunday night before Sunday Night Baseball. Now, one of the issues with doing live video like this is that the audio is pre-recorded, right? So I don't have any video of me talking to Gabe Speier. I don't have a graphic that says, like you would watch on a radio show where the interview is pre-taped, voice of Gabe Speier. The best I can offer you is this little ticker if you're watching on YouTube that says we're talking with Gabe Speier. So it's only 4 minutes, but I basically have to just sit here. So you're going to see me sitting here. It's going to be awkward, but it was 4 minutes with Gabe Speier, and it was really, really good.
It's not just today. Just kind of take me through the Walker at bat yesterday. Obviously, there's adrenaline and emotion to it, but how do you kind of stay within yourself to still make good pitches and not just try to throw hard?
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in Cal calling pitches, so whatever he puts down, I kind of convicted in. But I think preparing, for that moment, you can't really. I think just the experiences I've had in the past in big situations in games, obviously that was probably the biggest one of my career. But I think the situations I've been in kind of this year and in years past have kind of maybe prepared me for that moment a little bit.
Upstairs in the press box, I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, if they go get Speier, then they might pinch hit for Sanchez. They're going to go get Walker maybe. Are you ever thinking, or is maybe the bullpen coach thinking along as to, hey, here's what could happen, here's what might happen? Or are you just warming up and see what happens when you get out there?
No, yeah, we knew. I mean, especially we thought it was going to be Walker or Dubon, and then when we saw Dubon pinch run at second, we were almost 100% sure it was going to be Walker. So, when I was warming up, our bullpen coach, Tony, was telling me kind of our scouting report to Walker. So, yeah, we knew we were going to be facing him.
And it's been talked a lot about this year, but I've never gotten a chance to ask you, how much does it mean for them to have faith in you to pitch not only against lefties, but against righties, and righties with a real track record like Walker has?
Yeah, I mean, it's big. I think in years past, my stuff hasn't changed. I think it's more of a mindset change when I'm facing righties. When I'm facing lefties, I'm very comfortable and confident. And not to say I wasn't confident against righties, but it was maybe just a little less. And I think so for me, it's just kind of a mental switch of like really bearing down against the righties and being confident and getting them out. It's easier said than done, confidence, like it's this thing, but I think just as the year's gone on and the success I have had against righties has just given me even more confidence.
I've been thinking a lot about specialization over the last couple of years, and like we look at it with this team. Okay, Cal maybe didn't get the chance to hit against lefties in the past. This year he's shown he can. Same thing with Dom, who's hitting better against lefties this year. You pitching against righties. You guys clearly have the ability to do it. How much does it mean that this staff is giving you the opportunity to go out and try some of these things that maybe have been less prevalent in the past?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. Being left-handed, it's easy to label a guy, he's a lefty specialist or, like a specialist, like you were saying. But yeah, and it makes sense. I know there's a lot of matchups in today's game, and our right-handed pitchers in the bullpen are very good, so I get it. But yeah, I mean, I see myself as just a high leverage reliever, and I've been told, not told, but from the people on the outside looking in, think, oh, he's a lefty specialist or whatever. But for me, I've always thought of myself as just another reliever that just happens to be left-handed.
And lastly, get you out of here on this. You've done it a bunch this year, 3 games in a row. We've seen Bizardo do 3 games in a row right now. We've seen Munoz go 3 games in a row. Just kind of the mindset of the staff to take the ball whenever you're asked to, and maybe push yourselves, especially at this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that it's huge division rival, and and the kind of the race is like neck and neck, and so I think our bodies are maybe a little broken down from it's a long season. I think I have like 70-something games. It's been a lot, but adrenaline takes over and you feel good, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of, this is the first year I've kind of really done that, and I've thankfully been feeling pretty good. So, but yeah, it's definitely you kind of got to push your soreness, how your body feels to the side, and just go out and give it everything you got.
All right, that was Gabe Speier with me in the Mariners clubhouse on Sunday night leading into Sunday Night Baseball. I just, first time, though, it's my first time talking with Gabe Speier. I always like talking with somebody new every time I come and trying to kind of get a different perspective from a different player. And I've said this before. One of the things that frustrates me about sports in general, not baseball, not the Mariners, is the specialization, is the idea that somebody can't make themselves a well-rounded player, right? In the NBA, this guy only shoots threes. Well, okay, what if he wants to learn how to dribble and get to the basket? You're telling me he's not allowed to do that. This guy in the NFL, he's only a third down back. Okay, well, what if he's only a slot receiver? Okay, he's only a nickel back. This guy in baseball is only a left-handed reliever. This guy only hits against lefties. I dislike the idea of somebody becoming just such a one-dimensional player. And this staff, well, of course they adhere to some of that. Of course they do. I like the idea of especially young or new players getting an opportunity to do things and see things and kind of see where they're at and become more well-rounded. And it's been beneficial to them at times to have Dom Canzone hit against the lefty. It's been beneficial, obviously, to not platoon Cal in the way they did back in the Tom Murphy days. It's been beneficial to them to have Gabe Speier pitch against right-handers, and he's been very good against them as well. So it is we talk about kind of the old school nature of Dan Wilson. Well, I think this is one of the areas where it has become a positive, right? Dom Canzone's not going to get a hit against every lefty he faces. Gabe Speier's not going to get out every single righty he faces. But the fact that they've been given the freedom and the confidence to go out and do those things and work on, I don't even want to say their deficiencies, but work on things that they've never really been given the chance to work on, that's been something I've enjoyed watching this year. And I enjoyed the conversation with Gabe Speier, who called that moment on Saturday night the biggest in his career. The biggest in his career. All right, we're going to hear from Doug Glanville as well in a couple of minutes, but I do want to kind of get to Bryan Woo, and let's separate this. There's what I know, and there's what I think will happen moving forward. So as for what I know, it's basically everything I told you on Friday night. Bryan Woo left the game, right pectoral soreness. We learned on Saturday he has some slight inflammation in there. Dan Wilson said we will know more in 24 to 48 hours to see how he responds. The word on Sunday was there was no change. I personally did not see Bryan Woo throw it all the last 2 days. Now, again, that was me personally. I did not watch every minute of everything happening on the field, but I didn't see Bryan Woo throwing. If he did not throw it all, that would be notable because these guys do throw every day, even after they have pitched. It's all part of their routine. So if Bryan Woo broke from routine, as again, I did not see him throw, that would be something that was important to note for me. I did not see Bryan Woo at all with any ice. Didn't see him with any slings, didn't see him with any ace bandage wraps, whatever. So all of that seems good also. We will know more on Tuesday when the team gets home. Obviously, that will have been 3-4 days out from the injury itself. Justin Hollander always speaks at the start of a new homestand, so Taryn will be there in Seattle to hear Hollander speak and maybe give a further update on Brian Wu. So that's what I know. As for what I think will happen, Brian Wu was scheduled to start on Thursday against the Rockies. I do not believe that Brian Wu will start on Thursday. That is just me. Again, everything I know, I just told you. Now I'm speculating and reading the tea leaves. If Brian Wu is not going through with his normal routine right now, I just don't see the way they put him on the mound on Thursday. I think the hope and the goal is as follows. One, that by Thursday, the Mariners could have already clinched a playoff spot and may have already clinched the division, right? The magic number is at 3 right now, meaning any combination of 3 Mariners wins and 3 Astros losses would get the Mariners the division. So maybe the Mariners have already clinched the division on Thursday, and that game doesn't matter as much for that standpoint. Therefore, they could push Brian Wu to the weekend, give him a little more rest, a little more healing, a chance to throw more. They can get him some work against the Dodgers, and whether that's 3 innings, 5 innings, a full outing, whatever, they can get him on the mound over the weekend. And then certainly the hope is that they're in position to get the 2 seed, get the bye. So Brian Wu has gotten the work, and isn't going 2 weeks without pitching. That would be the perfect scenario. Now, obviously, they may not be in a position to have the 2 seed wrapped up yet, and you certainly don't want to pitch Brian Wu on Saturday and then have to come out in a wild card series. But I think in a perfect world, Brian Wu gets pushed back, pitches this weekend, gets some mound work in, and then they clinch a bye, and he's able to go and start hopefully game 1 of a division series. There's still a lot of moving parts. They have to win the division. Brian Wu has to feel well. They have to get to that. They have to get that bye and give themselves an opportunity for my best case scenario to come into play. Right now, the Mariners are 2 games up on the Tigers with the tiebreaker for the number 2 seed. And yes, by the way, I want them to get the number 2 seed. There's always the talk of rest versus rust. There's always the talk of, do you want to not play in the wild card series? We've seen teams get the bye and get upended. Yes, I want the Mariners to get the bye. I get all of that, but I want Brian Wu to get more rest. I want this bullpen to get more rest. I want guaranteed home games at T-Mobile Park. I want more guaranteed home games at T-Mobile Park. And I want to lop off one more kind of roadblock in terms of this team hopefully getting to and winning the World Series. So, yes, I want this team to get the bye. So that's that. That's on Brian Wu. As we come down the stretch in the final week of the regular season, there is something I think is very, very notable to watch for. I want to know and I want to see if Edward Bizzardo has passed Matt Brash on the bullpen hierarchy. Doesn't mean it's this way forever. Doesn't mean it's this way for next season. But for right now, I want to know if Edward Bizzardo has passed Matt Brash for the 8th inning role. And the reason why I say that is this. Edward Bizzardo threw 9 pitches on Thursday in Kansas City. Edward Bizzardo threw 24 pitches on Friday in Houston. On Saturday, in the 8th inning at a 6-4 game, Dan Wilson elected to go to Edward Bizzardo for the 3rd consecutive day, and he passed over Matt Brash. He would rather go to Edward Bizzardo for a 3rd straight day than go to the guy who has been his 8th inning guy all year. For me, this was my assumption. I believe that Edward Bizzardo right now has the trust over Matt Brash. Doesn't mean they don't trust Brash at all, but I think that they do trust Edward Bizzardo kind of implicitly at this point. Bizzardo's given up 1 earned run in his last 19 appearances. 1 earned run in his last 19 appearances. I believe he's got 12 consecutive scoreless appearances. Matt Brash, until Sunday, had given up hits in 5 straight appearances, multiple hits in 3 of those 5. And obviously we saw the 4 runs he gave up against Kansas City on Wednesday, the only loss for the Mariners in the last 15 games. Over the final week, I want to see if it bears out that Bizzardo is the preferred 8th inning guy over Matt Brash. Now, it's also fair to note, Brash threw 30 pitches on Wednesday. Brash threw 18 on Friday. Brash got up on Saturday without coming in. So he threw a lot as well. Maybe the team wants to continue to be careful with him still in his first year back from Tommy John. So it's certainly possible Brash is still the guy, but they want to continue to be careful with him. But I personally read it as Bizzardo is the guy that they trust more right now. And we will see over the final week how that bears out. All right, Doug Glanville. He is a former Major League outfielder, and he also now serves as a broadcaster at ESPN. He was on the call for ESPN Radio on Sunday night. I caught up with him at Dyken Park as well. Again, before Sunday's game, so before the Mariners had swept. But Doug Glanville spent 9 years in the majors, an excellent runner, an excellent defender, played with the Cubs, the Phillies, and the Rangers, most notably the Phillies, where he spent 6 years. Again, a great runner. He stole 168 bases. He had 2 seasons of 30 or more steals. He had 6 seasons of double-digit steals. And he was a career 277 hitter as well, former first-round pick. So Doug Glanville was in the ballpark. And again, because I have no video of Doug Glanville, you're just going to have to sit here if you're watching on YouTube and kind of watch me listen to the interview also. But the interview was excellent, and it's only about 7 minutes long, so it won't be awkward for too long. But here was Doug Glanville of ESPN Radio.
As a longtime outfielder, your thoughts on the Victor Robles play that ended Saturday's game?
Wow. I mean, there's something about that was so magical, because even calling the game, all eyes were on the center fielder, which of course I can relate to. I'm like, that's my job. I'm supposed to catch everything. So I'm thinking as a center fielder, like, I'm coming in. So you have a blind spot for this other dude in right field. And you talk about teleportation. I mean, Robles came out of absolutely nowhere. He fooled the broadcasters. He fooled the fans. He fooled the professional base runner, Jake Myers. He fooled the manager, the third base coach. I mean, that tells you how amazing it was, because nobody knew he was coming, and he was there.
Talk to me about what goes through your mind as an outfielder, because if he dives and it gets past him, both runs scored. If he lets it fall, it's probably 6-5 and a runner's at third, but you're still winning. How do you kind of weigh the risk versus reward in the moment as a player?
Well, the thing is, you have 2 outfielders that are basically center fielders.
Yeah.
So I think he had less risk, or they had less risk, because, all right, if it does drop, it had a lot of arc to it. Mm-hmm. So that's a key thing, because it's coming down more in a parachute. So when it lands, it doesn't go by you in the same way. So that's one that you can be a little more risky on, because it's coming straight down and it probably won't go far away. Plus you have the other outfielder who's with you that's there to back up. I know Rodriguez was sliding himself, but that gives you that advantage of okay, I got to back up, and it doesn't have the trajectory like a line drive where if I miss it and it goes all the way to the wall. So, but I don't know if he even thought about that, because I think he was just let me just make this play. You have to, he is in a position to go for it, and he did, and he was successful.
We give a lot of credit to teams who have been good and they stay good. But as a player, and if you're looking at the Mariners' perspective, they haven't won the division in almost a quarter century. How much do you think it would mean to this group of players to kind of break that drought if they're able to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything to just mark off those accomplishments. I mean, you know what they are. You come in every spring training, you're aware of what your goals are. The Mariners have had a lot of talent. They've been close. They've been short. They've been sort of swirling around. And they're also very aware of what it means to the city and the region, because, they're that team that haven't won the World Series yet. And then you have guys like Kyle Raleigh emerge, and, which is obviously a great signing. someone who's like representative, who's going to be here a long time, and is setting records every night. So you start to go, why not us? We're a team that have all this talent, and we've made trades to show that we are very serious about winning now. All that starts to come to play, that you create the expectation like, this is it. And Dan Wilson has done a nice job, good communicator, a patient, former, Mariner himself as a player, a catcher. It's so much that's headed in the right direction. And so they have so much to build on. So I think the expectation is there.
Fans of every team will always get on your manager for a pinch hit here, a bullpen decision there. But the thing that Dan seems to get a lot of praise for is his ability to manage people and manage the clubhouse. How important is that, especially in today's game?
It's critical. You will not have a managerial job if you can't communicate, if you don't know how to talk to the media, if you don't know how to talk to your player. That's probably the key part of the job now, because the data is there, right? Everybody has information and scouting reports and analytics, and you can figure out how to manage a bullpen using the algorithms that are available. And certainly there's some managers that are better at certain aspects, but they have a lot of support. But what is not that much supported is that you have to have the ability to communicate, and that's kind of on you to talk to your players, to know when to talk to your players, to know how to talk to the press and communicate and protect your players. All that really comes to play. Dan Wilson's been excellent at it. I've had a chance to interview him a couple of times, and he's solid. There's a humility. He's willing to fall on the sword, but at the same time, he seems to be also in awe. You talk about Cal Raleigh's like, I still have a joy of watching this sport and this game that I played, and realize like, wow, there's so much greatness going on, and I'm witnessing this firsthand from the dugout.
A guy who was your peer was Ken Griffey Jr., and Cal just passed him. 57 homers, all-time Mariners record for a single season. When you think about how good and how special Junior was, how special is what we're seeing from Cal?
I mean, there's not really a whole lot of words. I mean, it's really special. You have to take it even further than that, because he's a catcher.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like, that just stops everybody's conversation, because what he has to do every single day to prepare, to know the manager, the staff, situational, throw runners out, take foul balls off the mask, concussion protocols, whatever. That's just the basic start. Okay, you're a catcher, and you can hit 180 in this league and be a catcher and be on a roster. Okay, so that's how tough that position is. And now you have a guy who's just setting records and out homering Ken Griffey Jr. That is insane. And so, you have to tip your cap. And I'm sure he's going to be in that MVP conversation. And he should get a lot of bonus points. He really should, because there's nothing like being a catcher in this league, to lead and have that responsibility. And then, oh, by the way, hit. Oh, by the way, from both sides of the plate. And steal some bases while you're at it. I mean, come on.
As we move through the final week of the season, there's going to be a lot of talk about rest versus rust. The Mariners right now, as we talk, are in position to have the number 2 seed in the American League playoffs and get the first round bye. But we've seen the first round bye burn some people in the last couple of years. Where is your stance on kind of the importance of getting those extra days off?
Well, my stance is really informed by a lot of managers we've asked about that. I think a lot say, get the win, get the W, win the division, and set up your bullpen, set up your lineup, just set people up, especially your rotation. I think that's going to be more critical. Now, if you have the luxury, maybe the Mariners who have a lot of depth on their rotation, or maybe the Phillies, teams like that, maybe you can be like, it doesn't matter who starts game one. But you want to be able to set up your bullpen and be ready, and especially if you're home field on top of that. So I say you cash those chips in. And yes, sometimes the team is a little hot because they went game 3 and they won the wild card and they're feeling good. But you have to remember that there's a reason why you're where you are.
I believe, as we talk right now, the Mariners have the highest percentage of runs via the homer. If not, they're very, very close. When you get into October, do you look at that as a positive or a negative?
It's absolutely a positive if you can replicate it. Now, you don't have necessarily control of that, but there's no doubt the teams that out homer, they are much more on the success ledger side of things. So you get the quick strike. You take back leads. You win at the end with one swing of the bat. You're facing these aces that you have to chain together 5 singles against. I mean, you're not going to do that very often against Jacob deGrom or Tarek Skubal or whatever. So if Tarek Skubal's on the mound, you got to think about, let me just quick strike him, get that 3-run homer, and hope our bullpen holds. So it pays to have power, and the Mariners made great moves at the trade deadline to get Suarez. And then you look around, Polanco, incredible year, Arozarena, Rodriguez, and then Cal Raleigh, by the way. You got a bunch of dudes with 30 home runs, 25 home runs. That is dangerous. And by the way, they can steal bases too. So I'm very bullish on the Mariners, because this is a very talented team that absolutely has the ability to win it all.
Absolutely has the ability to win it all, Doug Glanville said. And you know what? I am with him on the homer thing because on one hand, it scares you to death, right? The Mariners hit a lot of home runs. It scares you to death that the power is going to run dry, that the weather is going to turn cold and the ball's not going to carry as much. Like that absolutely terrifies me. But at the same time, are you going to put together 5 singles on Tarek Skubal? Are you going to put together 5 singles on Max Fried? I don't think you are. At least you certainly can't bank on it. So the Mariners have to be the ability, I think, to do 2 things. Get them on, get them over, get them in, right? We've seen that in this series. Can you get a leadoff single, steal second, grounder to second to get them to third, and hit a sac fly? You have to be able to manufacture runs. But you also have to be able to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Now, if we look at possible playoff spots, right? Obviously, the Mariners could go to Toronto, where indoors, dome, the ball's going to travel there. Could go to New York, where I can tell you it's still warm right now. I don't know how it's going to be in 2.5 weeks, but it's been very, very warm in New York. It's been very, very warm in Boston. I can't speak to Detroit's weather, but like I absolutely fear that the power could dry up. But I also think what Doug Glanville said is right, that the teams that out-homer have a better chance of being successful. All right, one last news and note, Jorge Polanco's leg is okay. Remember, Jorge Polanco fouled the ball off his right leg on Sunday night and was really wincing, and the Mariners took him out before the bottom of the 8th inning. Dan Wilson said Polanco was fine. There was no concern. They took him out to get some extra early treatment, but there is no concern. Frankly, you could say they should have put Leo Rivas in to play defense anyways, even if Polanco was healthy. So if that's maybe what they were thinking they should have done, then doing it 2 innings early, really not a harm. So good to hear that Polanco is okay. Mariners will need him. All right, I want to thank everybody for watching here on YouTube. I want to thank everybody who will subsequently listen to the audio version only on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It was an honor to be here in Houston this week covering these games. It was an honor to interact with you. I met one of our great listeners, Jacob, in the ballpark here at Dyken Park as well. It was fun for me. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I'm grateful for what we all witnessed. Again, an exercising of demons, it felt like. Now, it's time to go finish the job. It's time to finish the job. The Rockies and the Dodgers, a playoff spot, the division, the number 2 seed, a first-round bye. It is all up for grabs. I want to thank Gabe Speier. I want to thank Doug Glanville. I want to thank all of you. Remember, you can listen to us always on, well, usually it's Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, but I have a feeling it's going to be more and more prevalent as the playoff chase pushes on and the playoffs, fingers crossed, come into play. We'll do more videos on YouTube as well, so you can always watch us here on this channel, and you can always read all of our stories, myself and Taryn Kowach, over at Roundtable Sports. That is Roundtable Sports. Go and find us there. Mariners Roundtable, and join our free community. No subscription, no paywall. Sign up for our newsletter, all the Mariners content that you could want. I will see you once, if I'm ever finally able to get out of Houston, I will see you back at my home base in a couple of days. Continue to follow me on social media at Refuse to Lose Pod. And as always, go M's.